Okay, if you've been following my videos, you know that what you're looking at here is my 5 kilohertz sine wave test, which I've been using to not entirely remove, but mitigate aliasing distortion. In my project sample rate, which is 48,000 hertz. Now, so if you're not familiar with this, please maybe go back and watch the earlier videos where I explain my 5 kilohertz sine wave test protocol. Okay, but here we are. I said that I'd be doing a video about Airwindows Ultrasonic, and here it is. After testing it in my chain at my project sample rate, this is what I've found. And I'm just throwing it out there as is for whatever it's worth to you. Okay, so what you see here is a stable reading of the 5 kilohertz sine wave in SPAN, Voxengo SPAN. And here's the fundamental at 5K. And here is a harmonic resonant spike at 10K. And here is a harmonic resonant spike at 15K. These are good. We've got a very small inharmonic spike here at 23. I've said before that there's a reason for that being there, and it's not hurting anything, and I will get to that. That's coming up before too very long. But anyway, right here we have Airwindows Spiral2, which is a part of my saturation, the saturation block in my mastering chain. Here's my mastering chain over here. You can see that you got Airwindows, Airwindows, Airwindows. That's because I'm just going to go through the saturation block, which is like right at the beginning of the chain. First is console 8 bus in, and that's part of the Airwindows console system. I'm using console 8. I will be doing a video on that. After that, I got a couple bypassed here. After that, I got ultrasonic, Neverland, Spiral, Spiral2, Density, Interstage, Ultrasonic again. So you see that the original block was Neverland, Spiral, Spiral2, Density, Interstage. Is that overkill? Well, it could be. But no, it isn't, because these Airwindows tools are highly specifically modular. Okay, and I'm going to get into that more as I go along. But these are all these tools are included in the This is called, you see right here, Airwindows Consolidated. This plugin, it's all one plugin called Airwindows Consolidated. Within Airwindows Consolidated, you've got all of these categories and all of these tools. So Airwindows Consolidated is a toolkit with dozens and dozens and dozens of tools in it. Therefore, when it's loaded, when you've got multiple instances loaded into your chains, they all show up as just Airwindows Consolidated, right? And so this is a minor drawback of the Airwindows workflow. But after a little while, you kind of learn to sort of visually map in your mind. You learn to count how many down which one is. And you just got something you got to work with. But anyway, the idea is you place... So ultrasonic is supposed to be a filter that helps to just to filter out aliasing distortion, right? That's the basic idea. And there are others. If we look under the brightness section here, there's like ultrasonic, ultrasonic light, ultrasonic medium, and up here we have hypersonic and hypersonics. Okay, these are all sort of the differences between them are just have to do with the types of the steepness of the filters and the math and all that. Ultrasonic is just kind of like a catch-all starting point. Okay, but the idea is if you have a nonlinear plugin or a nonlinear block of plugins in a chain, you put an instance of ultrasonic before, you put an instance of ultrasonic after, just for good measure. And so you get filtration before the block and after the block. Okay, so in theory, it's supposed to help you filter out that aliasing distortion. But my technical understanding of this stuff, it's still incomplete, and I'm still learning as I go. Okay, so before I did this video, I had to sit down and test it, put it to the test, see how it performs. Looking at it using SPAN. So previously, it's like, let me dial up. Let me see, Neverland. See, this is Spiral. This is Spiral2 right here. Previously, I had Spiral2 set at input 0.5000. Okay. And so sitting down to do this test, before I inserted ultrasonic, before and after this saturation block, I held the shift key and started turning up the input knob. This is what SPAN looked like. And I start turning up the input knob, holding down the shift key so that it, if you don't hold down the shift knob, then it doesn't go up as smoothly, right? Just slow down the rate of increase. Hold the shift key down and like click on the knob and mouse it up. Okay. And I was able to get to, basically 0.57 before. I'm holding the shift key down and I'm mousing up. You see how it's starting to come up now around 0.573, right? So 0.57 was kind of like the threshold. Okay. Try to get it. Sometimes the mouse won't quite get it exactly where you want it. You click in and okay, so there it was. So then so what I wanted to find out is if I insert ultrasonic before and after the saturation block, then how much further can I nudge this input on Spiral2 and still have this free of aliasing distortion spikes? Now, so the results were inconsistent and confusing at first, because at first I was able to nudge input all the way up to like 0.59, which is a pretty marginal increase, right? I mean, I don't think it's even really a audibly discernible difference. I mean, maybe if your ears are better than mine, you could hear the difference. I probably couldn't. Okay. That's a very marginal increase. All right. And once again, my 5 kilohertz test is not authoritative. It's not exhaustive. It's not, it's a protocol that I developed and that I use because I could hear a difference after adopting that protocol. I heard an improvement in my sound after adopting this protocol across the board. Okay. That's my caveat. That's my disclaimer. This is provided as is. Now, so here's what happened. I saw, like, I had it at 0.59. There would be like a burp or a pulse, an amplitude pulse in the signal, where this whole SPAN reading would kind of like burp or hiccup or pulse, and then it would settle down again. And then suddenly, at the same settings with ultrasonic in place, there's these aliasing distortion spikes. They would appear. And so I nudged this back down until they disappear. It could be like, this time it's maybe like 0.586 or 0.579, right? And then I wait, and then there's another amplitude burp or pulse in span, and then they appear again. And so like let's say I nudge it back down to 0.57 where it is now. And then burp, they appear again. Even at what was originally a safe setting without ultrasonic, with ultrasonic, at any second, this might have a little amplitude pulse and the spikes could appear again. And then I could get the pulse and they might disappear again. And then I could ramp up the input a little bit, right? And then, so here's the point. The possible benefit is so marginal, it's not worth stressing about. But on top of that, and this has to do with, okay, look, I'm just going to nutshell this because I asked Gemini about it and it gave me some really highly technical explanations having to do with math and Nyquist and all that. The short and skinny is that the developer of Airwindows developed ultrasonic. He optimized it for use with in 96K project sample rate. Okay, I'm not going to get into the weeds of why all this is. This has to do with like the pulses are something called denormal. It has to do with like DC offset and a bunch of stuff that, frankly, I'm not super technical. To me, it's not worth it to get that fine tooth with my comb. All right. So here's the takeaway. So when I started this test, my safe setting for aliasing distortion spikes was right what you see right now, 0.57. Okay. And then I added Airwindows Ultrasonic before and after. Now, with Airwindows Ultrasonic before the saturation block and after the saturation block, even this safety threshold, 0.57, was stable. With Airwindows Ultrasonic, it's not stable anymore. I might get aliasing distortion spikes at this setting with ultrasonic. This is not casting shade at Chris, the developer of ultrasonic. It's not his fault. It's not a problem with ultrasonic. It's just the fact that ultrasonic is optimized for use within 96 kilohertz sample rate project setting, not for 48 kilohertz. All right. And just to put a little cherry on the top, I thought that Gemini came up with a actually quite nice little sort of takeaway, a way to frame it. Gemini wrote, see here, think of ultrasonic at 48K like a speed bump placed right at the edge of a cliff. Instead of slowing you down safely, it just makes your car bounce and fly off the edge. At 96K, that same speed bump is a mile away from the cliff, so it works perfectly. All right. So, and then here's a table that Gemini drew up that I'll just put on the screen here for reference. And then like you can pause the video and read it and try to make sense of it. But the takeaway is I'm not going to be using Airwindows Ultrasonic in my for filtration at 48 kilohertz. And I think neither should you. But anyway, I'm getting on 15 minutes here, so I'm going to sign off. I don't know where the time goes. But anyway, Vinyl Bear from Vinyl Bear Studio in lovely scenic Paju City, South Korea. I hope you found this useful and informative. If you did, please like and subscribe and shout out in the community section. Peace.